All right, 9:01. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We will have some folks joining us sporadically as they enter the waiting room. We have someone letting them in, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the Water Energy Education Alliance, or WEEA Leadership Roundtable meeting number 7. While I'm not the official greeter, also welcome to 2021. I feel that is kind of necessary. We've had a long journey this last year, but it's a brand new start. I'm really excited. Bill got us started off a little bit early, but we have 71 people registered today. 49 organizations are represented, which is also another record. And we have over 24 new participants.
All right, 1 second.
Okay, if you don't mind, if you have your mute button, go ahead and push that mute. We'll go over our guidelines in just a few seconds. So yes, over 24 new participants today. So welcome to all of you who have been with us since the beginning, 2018, or any time in between. And please help us welcome our 24 new participants. 49 organizations represented if you just joined us, which is fantastic. This is our opportunity to introduce ourselves. We're not meeting in person, so we can't go around a roundtable, which we've done in the past, but we do have a chat. So please introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're from. And if you have one, include a New Year's resolution related to the work that we're doing today and the work that we'll continue to do together. We'll give you a few minutes to do that. In the meantime, I'd also like to introduce our 2020-2021 WEEA sponsors, which are the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Molten-Miguel Water District, Water Replenishment District of Southern California, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, California Environmental Education Foundation, and we are so grateful to welcome the Western Municipal Water District as our newest sponsor. They just joined us this month, and thank you all for your commitment to the work that we're doing here today. Without your continued commitment, we wouldn't be here today. So if you're interested in sponsoring, here's my contact information. You can reach me via email or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Tiffany Baca. I'm the Public Affairs Manager for the Municipal Water District of Orange County, and I also lead the Water Energy Education Alliance. I went with a little fun photo here. I started in water 13 years ago, and that was not my path. This isn't where I expected to be. But I love my job. I love what I get to do, and I'm not a technical worker, but I still get to enjoy a lot of those benefits, including visiting infrastructure like what you see behind me. This was actually on an inspection trip of the Colorado River Aqueduct, which is one of the sources of our Southern California water. And I would take people on tours along with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California to various locations and teach them about where our water comes from. So there's a lot of opportunity in the jobs that we have. I'm going to move this up really quick. And I think I'm just going to start sharing some of those fun photos about kind of what my job looks like. And in the future, I'll invite our speakers to do the same. Our land acknowledgement. So 2020, I hope that everyone has either been in conversations or is looking to join conversations about what has been coming for a long time and is long overdue, and that is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's part of the work that we do here today, making sure that every K-12 student knows that these jobs are available and providing access and the resources like education to get them where they need to be. So knowledge is a stepping stone towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. So in the spirit of truth and recognition, we acknowledge we're gathered today on the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples and nations throughout California, who for thousands of years protected, cared for, and thrived on this land. Native American tribes, such as those of Orange County and where I'm presenting from today, the city of Garden Grove, the Tongva tribe, had a close relationship with our natural resources, settling near lakes and rivers and working with seasonal cycles to meet their water needs. We honor and respect those who came before us and will continue to be good stewards of our land and natural resources. This is particularly important for those of us in the water and energy industry. For thousands of years, these resources had been protected and cared for by those who came before us, and now it's our responsibility to care for those. So if you know the original nation whose territory you live, learn, or work on, please put that in the chat. If you don't know, that's okay. This is a very safe space and a place for us all to learn together. You can visit native-land.ca. There's an interactive map. You can type in your address or search a city and learn a little bit more about the history of our land. Our guidelines today are pretty simple. I'm going to move me out of the way. In the Zoom application, make sure your screen name is correct and includes your organization. There is an option to change your name. There's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, we have 71 people registered. We hope that you all will all be actively participating. It makes it easier for us to engage with each other, learn a little bit more about each other, easier for us to call on you if you have a question or a comment. But also if we have technical difficulties, it's so much easier to be able to call your name other than phone number 7196, whatever. So if you could use the more button, the 3 little dots, and change your name and organization, that would be great. We ask that all participants remain muted unless presenting or asking a question. So you'll see your mute button. Mine is on the top left. It looks like a little microphone. Yours is probably on the bottom left, and just go ahead and select that. There's a reason that we didn't select a webinar for this meeting because it is interactive and we want everyone to have the opportunity to share. But that means that we're all going to have to be respectful and keep the mute off unless we're presenting or asking a question. We're reserving the chat for comments. Again, engage with each other. If you have comments along the way, please share those with your fellow attendees, the fellow participants here. We're going to use the raise hand function if you'd like to ask a question, and we do have someone monitoring that. So if for some reason you put your question in the chat, we'll catch that too, but we'd prefer that you reserve the chat for comments and raise your hand if you have a question. The agenda today, you should have all received the agenda when you registered, and if you haven't, we're putting that in the chat for your reference so you can follow along. These meetings are 3 hours long as we're virtual, and that's a pretty long time. We understand that you're busy and we want to respect that. So if there's something that you absolutely didn't want to miss, here's your opportunity to see what our agenda looks like. I'm doing the welcome and introductions now. At 9:15, I'll introduce Katie Vincent. At 9:25, Dr. Adrienne Hightower will talk to us about our meeting objectives. At 9:35, we introduce our speaker, Emily Courtney, Program Director of SEI. At 10:15, we'll have Q&A. 10:30, a 15-minute break. At 10:45 to 11:10, we have a good news segment. So we'll be hearing from Los Angeles Region and Riverside Unified School District. We'll come back and we'll enter facilitated regional breakout rooms with the regional lead sharing out at 11:40. We will provide next meeting date information and acknowledgements at 11:55, and we'll close at noon. I've done this a couple of times at a couple of different meetings, but since the majority of our attendance today is from the water industry, I really enjoy it, and it can change from day to day. So even if you've participated in this icebreaker before, you might find that you would select a different photo. So using the water images below, please enter A, B, C, or D in the chat to represent how you're feeling today. And when I was selecting these photos, I didn't include a descriptor because depending on the day, this photo may look and mean something different to you. Depending on who you are or what's going on in your life, this could change. So if you could pick A, B, C, or D and then add a descriptor. How are you feeling today? Calm, turbulent, excited about tomorrow, nervous about the future. Whatever you're feeling, we're going to give you a couple of minutes to let us know in the chat. I'm going to take a look. Relaxed. I love it. peaceful, ready, waves crashing, visualizing the outdoors, excited, stoked about today's meeting. Rose, I'm with you. Excited, love pick D, relaxed, somewhat rushed but excited. I think we're all feeling that. Energy filled and focused on moving forward. Thank you all for sharing that. I think it's an interesting time, and I think that for those of you who are new to the work of WEEA, I'm sure you're very curious and interested to see what we have to present, and we hope that you continue to invite others into the conversation, because what we're hoping to do is build those workforce pathways to water and energy for our young people to take over. This is the next generation, so we can't do it without your help. This isn't a one-man band. We need the entire orchestra, and we're grateful that you're here today to share in this conversation with us. So I'm going to introduce Katie Vincent, our 2020-2021 deliverables, WEEA deliverables, to our sponsors and to our participants. One of those was to hire a part-time education program assistant. And we've done that. So I'd like to introduce Katie Vincent. She's going to give you a little bit about her background and some of the projects that she's working on. Katie.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here and be a part of this project. So just a little bit about me. I am from the beautiful state of Colorado. I grew up there and went to Colorado Christian University to pursue my dream of being an educator. I love working with students and specifically high school students. And then I worked in the Denver area for a couple of years in education in the classroom. And then I got my master's of music at Cal State LA, which is what brought me out here to California. And, you know, I experienced the beautiful summers and then just never left because it is beautiful. And so then in October, I was hired by MODOC to work on this WEEA project. And I am just so excited about the work that we get to do. So I would love to just share a little bit about the projects that we've been working on. So the first one was that I got to help prepare the WEEA Q1 and Q2 reports. And that being one of my first projects, I really got to see the work that WEEA is doing and had been doing in the past. And then what Tiffany and WEEA had been accomplishing before I got there, and then looking forward to what goals we have and what we're going to do in the future. So that was a big report, which I'm sure a lot of you saw as our sponsors. And it was exciting to really put a document together that says, these are the great things that we've accomplished. This is what we're doing. This is what we want to do. So that was an exciting first project to work on. And then I've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings, of course, and just getting to know the partners that we have. I've met with a lot of you that are here today, so thank you for those meetings. And really seeing how we can work together to serve students, to serve our community, and really expand what WEEA is doing, and start to get kids involved. And these meetings have really been, I think, helpful for me to just connect with people and to experience something different, and see how we can learn from each other. And really that's been very helpful. So if you've been in one of those meetings with me, thank you so much. And then I've spent a lot of time adding new people to our contact list and just, again, trying to expand what we're doing and how many people are here. I think we have like 24 new people here, and it was exciting to have lots of new contacts be actually at our meeting. And you know, I spent a lot of time researching science teachers at high schools and colleges, and new people that even might be interested, and reaching out to them and saying, hey, would you like to join us and see what we're doing here? And got a lot of yes responses, which was fantastic. So that was one of my bigger projects I've been working on. A project I'm really excited about is our water jobs video project. So we realized that kids don't necessarily know about water jobs. They don't even know they exist. They take a shower and don't think about where their water comes from. I mean, we all know that. That's kind of why we're here, right? So kids love social media and they love videos. And so we want to create some short and sweet videos about water jobs that are available, and give a quick rundown of salary. Kids like thinking about making money in the future, and what the job entails, what kind of training you need to have this job, and then be able to put that out to social media, but also to teachers. I know some of you are teachers here today, and we would love to send that to you and say, share this with your students, get them interested, get them knowing about jobs. One of my roles as an educator in high school was to just let kids experience what kind of jobs they can do with the classes that they take from me. Even if they're a little bit interested, it might send them down a path to a great career and something that they love. And that's really my goal with students. And that's, coming from my background of being an educator, that's really where I feel like I can serve this committee the best, and say, let's reach out to students, let's connect with them. And I think this video project is going to be a great way to do that. And then lastly, I've been able to take a grant writing class, because always looking for more sponsors and more money to get this project done. So excited to start doing some grant writing. That it will be a good endeavor for us. And then later this month, I have a grant management class as well. And those were all webinars. It was a 2-day webinar event for the first class and 2 days for the second class. But the first one, I learned so much in just 2 days. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on, and I'm excited to start to get students involved, and of course through you, the teachers, and other organizations that work with students, and really that's where my expertise is. So I'm excited to share what I know, to really help this come alive even more.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie. So as you can imagine, MODOC assumed leadership of WEEA in May 2020, and I was so happy to have some help as we inch by inch and step by step move WEEA and the initiative forward. So Katie's been instrumental. One of the reasons that we selected her is because of her background in education. Obviously, I have a background in water, and that I needed a balance. I needed someone to bring another perspective. So while these leadership meetings are fantastic, and again, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. It's lovely to have a question and be able to pose it to someone who's coming and seeing the world through a different lens and seeing the work that we do from a different lens. So reach out to Katie if you have any questions, reach out to me. We're happy to have her here. So thank you for helping me welcome her. Next up, and I hope he's here, I'll have to take a look at the participant list. I'd like to introduce Dr. Adrian Hightower, the Education Unit Manager for the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Adrian has been with WEEA since its inception in 2018, and he has been a lifesaver, a great compadre for me as I learn the history of WEEA. Adrian, Walter with LADWP, and of course, Bill Andrews, who led WEEA for the few years before I joined the party. So these gentlemen have been instrumental to me understanding what the history was and where we want to take WEEA in the future. So Dr. Hightower will talk about our meeting objectives today. Adrian, are you here?
Hey, Tiffany, how are you?
There he is. Good morning.
Thank you. And thanks for removing that pre-COVID picture. That was a different time. But the as Tiffany mentioned, we started this in 2018, and it was really a time for identifying the challenges and the opportunities and the problems in terms of implementing career technical education for the water.
I'm sorry, Adrian, you're on mute.
That was mostly me just practicing.
Great job.
What I was going to say. And so now I got it down. All right. Thank you, Tiffany. Welcome, Katie. I'm so glad you guys were able to take leadership of WEEA and take it to another level. The professionalism and now the enhanced participation is really a testament to all the work that you have done. So I'm sincerely grateful. What I was saying while I was on mute was that we started WEEA in 2018, and that was a time when we were really identifying the challenges and the opportunities to creating career technical education programs in the water industry. The water industry, just like the energy industry, has well-established connections with community colleges and trade schools, but less so with high school programs and less so with middle school programs. So there was a clear opportunity. There was also a clear need in terms of the accelerating retirements that we're seeing in our field. The term silver tsunami is not a new term, but actively dealing with that, and a realization that a solution or an addressing of that issue is not going to be a 6-month or a 1-year plan, that it's going to take years to create a pipeline to be ready for the need. And so that's a lot of what we were doing in the early days. Identifying the language barriers that we have in our industries, that the educational field uses one set of acronyms and one set of priorities, and the water industry uses another. Even within the educational fields, that secondary education has very different terminology and even standards than community colleges or trade schools. So identifying these issues, identifying the challenges in creating career technical education teachers that are certified and credentialed. That's a lot easier in some of the other CTE industries, but it's been particularly challenging in the water industry. And so that brings us here. We did all of that work really pre-COVID and pre-economic challenges that we're facing now. And so where we find ourselves is a time for planning and seeing what we can do with what we have. And so these meetings conducted by Zoom, which now breaks down geographic barriers, is a wonderful way of doing that. So we have some objectives. Let's get to it. I think the first thing was understanding that different regions have different regional priorities, and identifying regional leads that can help coalesce the resources and the conversations around those specific regional needs. To that end, we are really grateful for Bruce Noble representing Los Angeles, John Caffrey representing Orange County, and Rebecca Elmore representing Inland Empire for donating their time to this effort to bring regional leaders together and start these conversations. All of these three represent California Community College's regional directors in the utilities, construction, and energy divisions. And so they bring a great deal of knowledge and resource and experience to that end. We're also very grateful to have Kurt Holland, who volunteered this weekend. Thank you, Kurt, to represent San Diego. And Kurt brings a lot of experience, not only with environmental education, but policy and education policy as well. And so we're very grateful for Kurt. You're going to be introduced to these regional leads during the regional breakout meetings. And those regional breakout meetings are where the work is going to get done. And we're hoping that in these meetings, you can start the task of identifying 5 steps to developing and implementing career technical education programs in your area. typically a healthy CTE program combines middle school, high school with a community college, trade school, or four-year college, and an industry partner. You get those three together, then you have all the ingredients you need for a pipeline for students to careers in the water industry, or a pipeline for students to just understand the opportunities out there. I think it's appreciated that not every student going through this is going to end up in the water industry, but every student is going to get a broader perspective of what is possible for them. So we're hoping that you'll be able to identify the next 5 steps, probably specific to your region, that will help you to establish the CTE program in your area. Lastly, we want to help identify resources that you can utilize to strengthen the CTE workforce. You're going to hear some good news about grant opportunities. In our past WEEA meetings, we've talked about curriculum that is available. We're hoping that you can understand what is available out there and also take it to the next level, because in this time of economic challenge and pandemic challenge, there is the appreciation that we can't just return to normal, but we have to return to something better. And so we began conversations about micro internship programs, utilizing the technology like Zoom to create opportunities for students that might not be 10 weeks, but might just be 10 hours. And these are some things that might overcome financial or logistical barriers that could still bring resources to our students. So taking the resources that we have available and using those to think outside the box and create solutions for our students in CTE programs. Cool. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany and thank her once again for organizing this, and specifically thanking her for identifying a resource that we can all utilize. I'm looking forward to our next speaker, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate the outcomes and the depth that you went into with the slide. This really gives everyone an idea of what's to come. I did want to emphasize how wonderful it is to have regional leads. This was not one of our deliverables, but it's something that's going to really help us hone in on the individual needs of our regions. So again, a huge thank you again to Bruce Noble, John Caffrey, Rebecca Elmore, and Kurt Holland for taking our 4 regions and working with them to find resources. This is work that they're already doing, but they're going to step up as regional leads for WEEA to lead the conversations we have in our breakout rooms so we can continue the momentum that we've started to build. And I think that being able to really focus on a particular area and the needs of your service area, it's going to make all the world of difference. So I'm really excited. I just wanted to give another shout out to them. I found out about Kurt yesterday, which was fantastic. But I found out about Bruce, I think on a Saturday, and I had nobody to tell. It's a Saturday, nobody's working. So I bored my husband probably for about an hour about how excited I was that this was the next step and a big step for us for WEEA. So I'm glad that now we have our meeting and I can share that with you.
Tiffany, there's a question from Lori.
Sure.
She said, are the micro internships available to high school students? Actually, Adrian, I don't know if you can answer that question for her.
Yeah, I threw out a buzzword, and I think a micro internship isn't well defined. I think it's an opportunity for us to define just what that is. I put in the chat that I think it's an opportunity for all students, and I think it can be tailored to whatever our industry or specific agencies' constraints or resources are. So it could be an hour, it could be building on to our existing online field trips that many of our organizations are doing. It could be a real in-depth discussion with individuals for different periods of time. I think I wanted to challenge us to define that for our own agency and see if we can start implementing them, frankly, this summer. But Lori, I'd love to talk to you more. I'll put my information in the chat.
Thanks, Adrian. So our next icebreaker is really kind of an introduction to our speaker. And I'm curious, I'll tell you why I'm curious about what your answer is here, but I'd like you to start thinking about what inspires you about your career in water, energy, or education? What is it? Why are you here today? It's more than I'm attending a meeting, because this is an alliance. This is a coalition of people who are looking towards the future to fill the jobs that we think are really quite awesome. What inspires you about your career in water, energy, or education? And please share your motivators in the chat. If anybody, you have to be inspired about your job. I'm sure you are in some way. Okay. Inspired by our brilliant students reaching their full potential. I love that. Motivated to inspire students to have a great career. It's a new area of opportunity for our students. I'm motivated by sharing experiential career-focused opportunities, opening doors and creating opportunities, enjoy the water industry, the learning, flexibility opportunities, and want to share this with young people, connecting our students to real essential work. Our industry is so essential. Clean water and air are basic needs. Teaching people about the amazing technology. Please keep sharing that in the chat. The reason I wanted to bring this up is I really want us to start thinking about the messages that we're using today to recruit and inspire students. And do they align with what inspires us about our jobs? Or are we using and leaning on motivators like it's a stable job or it's got great benefits? There are things about our work that are motivating and inspiring to us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here for 30, 40, 50 years in some cases. So when we're talking to students, I want you to kind of think into the future. Imagine that the work that we do here is very successful. What type of messages will we need to use to inspire students to consider a career in water, energy, and even in education, because we do need those positions to help bring students to us. And the educators, what heroes. Thank you for all that you do. I know it's been a tough year for you in particular. We have, MODOC has a K-12 program, and we're in schools like an hour a day, and that alone has been challenging. The work that you do every day matters. And I just wanted to thank you for everything that you do for the future of our industry, for the future of our economy, the health and welfare of students. That's in your hands. You have a very important job. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Emily Courtney as our speaker today. She is Program Director of Strategic Energy Innovations. And I am so lucky to have been introduced to Emily. When I tell people we've been talking about this meeting upcoming, our speaker is Emily Courtney, I'm just flooded by, I can't believe it. She's so wonderful. She's helped us so much. She's given us great resources. She really knows her stuff. And I was introduced to Emily by a colleague of ours at 10 Strands, and she has been instrumental in helping me also define what needs to happen next. So thank you for joining us today, Emily. You're welcome to share your screen now and begin your presentation.
Sorry, trying to work on getting in presentation mode without being in full screen, which might not be an option available to me. Give me 1 second, crew. Sorry about that. How does that look? Are you seeing my slides now, Tiffany?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, thanks for your patience.
Sure.
And thank you so much for the kind introduction, Tiffany. I really appreciate it. My name is Emily Courtney. I work for a nonprofit organization called Strategic Energy Innovations, SEI. And I'll just start with a brief introduction of what brings me to this work. I grew up in East Oakland and grew up simultaneously really passionate about being outdoors as a really restful and restorative place in a somewhat chaotic time in the neighborhood that I grew up in during the 80s, during the crack epidemic. And I grew up also really passionate about equal access to economic opportunity, and really passionate about the work of trying to support pathways out of multi-generational poverty, which is, you know, extremely stressful. Anyone who has lived with food scarcity or struggled to pay rent, I just really wanted to be a part of creating security for myself and for my community. And I did have the benefit of having parents with stable employment. When I was born, my mom worked at Southern Pacific Railroad, but she hurt her back and ended up going back to community college, and she got a horticulture degree, which is funny for somebody who hurt their back. But she ended up having a very successful 30-year career at Kaiser Oakland. I like to think that she grew the flowers that were the first thing that our new vice president saw when she was born, coming out of the hospital at Kaiser Oakland. And, I had the benefit, my mom woke up every day at the same time. She put on a uniform. She went to a workplace that was familiar to me. She had colleagues, mostly working in engineering and building operations, that I knew well. And that benefit of having stable employment in my life, I recognized was not a benefit that everyone around me had. And so I wanted to think about, how do we, besides equal opportunity to classroom education, how do we create equal access to economic opportunity and really break the chains of multi-generational poverty? So I started out my career teaching environmental education part-time and teaching job skills and entrepreneurship part-time. And I really wanted to bring those work lives together. I wanted to think about how we could create pathways out of poverty and economic stability while also helping the environment. And so I feel like I'm living my dream in my career right now. I went back to school and got a MBA in sustainable enterprise and was really focused at the time on good green job creation under the leadership of Van Jones, and went to become the director of green technology education at Laney College in Oakland and ran the Oakland Green Jobs Corps. Unfortunately, it was at a time when the construction trades were really hard hit in the 2008 recession. And so the idea of creating pathways out of poverty through green jobs is much more realistic in today's job market than it was back then. The construction trades are booming right now, and we have a lot of people who are sitting on the economic sidelines and are looking for opportunities to reinvent their career pathway. So I think it's really a moment of opportunity for us to help create access to opportunities together. And so I want to talk today about how we can do that. And I want to just start by framing the presentation with two key questions here. Thinking about what we can do from the education side and what we can do from the industry side in order to bridge what I commonly see as a gap between great educational experiences and industry, the first job. So we're going to talk about that whole continuum from education into industry today, but I also want to really focus the attention of the group on something that I feel like is often overlooked, that entry-level work experience. So we're going to talk today about how we can work together to inform, inspire, and empower students to pursue energy and water careers that protect the environment. And we're also going to talk about how we can work together to support graduates and job seekers to secure their first industry job and to really thrive in an energy and water career. I often have worked on career technical education programs where there wasn't a clear pathway into the first job, and students who had great access to training still really struggle to get into industry. So that's something I want to make sure that we keep our eye on as we work together. A little bit of background on the nonprofit that I work for, SEI. We work to build leaders to drive sustainability solutions and to build a more resilient world. So we do that from kindergarten through early career. Our Energized Schools program is our K-12 program that provides no-cost curriculum, teacher training, direct instructional support in the classroom. We're looking to help in every way to remove barriers for educators to use sustainability as a vehicle for teaching the academic standards that they're accountable for. And I'll talk a little bit more about some resources that we offer in just a little while. We also offer a School of Environmental Leadership 4-year high school program for students who have really decided that they're interested in pursuing an environmental career pathway. At the Energized Colleges level, we work with 2- and 4-year degree programs on academic programming, so working with faculty members in close collaboration to develop new academic coursework. Could be a hands-on experiential project within an existing course, or could be a whole new degree program or anywhere in between. And then we work to provide paid work experience for college students to build that first rung on their career ladder. And then getting into career and workforce, we provide 2 early workforce programs. Our Climate Corps program is generally folks who are coming out of college or graduate school and are, again, needing that first job. So we serve as the employer of record for a 10 months to 1 year employment experience. It often helps to make it easier for departments, especially like in public agencies where hiring can be quite slow and it can be difficult to navigate the bureaucracy. We often help people get into a position and become a part of a team and let that team have a trial employment experience with someone while they work to create a new position within their kind of sustainability or career education departments. So we have about 100 Climate Corps fellows, mostly on the West Coast. And then in Energized Careers, that's really focused on helping disadvantaged workers and people with barriers to employment to develop a high road career pathway in environmental careers, energy and water primarily. So these are working with training partners around the state of California to provide really great technical training to folks that we've helped to recruit, disadvantaged workers that we've helped to recruit into environmental pathways, and then creating really robust ecosystems of wraparound services to support people during their training and then into job placement and retention and through that retention period. So we're going to talk just a little bit about the labor market now. My colleague Liz is going to help by dropping some stats into the chat box. It's hard to take in stats through auditory learning. But the long story short here is that they're very good statistical drivers for optimism around clean energy careers in California. There are, policy does make markets, and we have some very strong policy in the state of California that is driving job growth. There are also some, independent market forces that are really creating a lot of new jobs in California in the clean energy sector. So check out the chat box for some individual stats on job growth in clean energy. In the local region, the Los Angeles Green New Deal, the Sustainable City Plan, lowercase p, capital L, capital A, lowercase n. Check out the city's plan. It's very ambitious and is forecasted to create an estimated 400,000 green jobs by 2050 in the city of LA. So that's one example of how policy can really make markets and drive job growth. In water careers, the labor market information can look less rosy than energy. It's partly because it's hard to forecast retirements. And rather than the market expanding, most of the job opportunities that we see in water are driven by an aging workforce and retirements on the horizon. So there are a lot of prospective jobs if we fully modernize and rehabilitate our water resource management systems in California. Those resources have not yet been committed by the state. If they do, that's going to unleash a tidal wave of jobs. But right now, most of the job creation that we're expecting in the state in the water industry is driven by retirements. I'm going to share right now, let's see here in the chat. Hopefully I can successfully drop in a report that Bruce Noble provided to me. Shoot. I don't actually know if I have the ability to do this right now. After I present, I'll share a report that Bruce had commissioned for the region on water careers, which provides a lot of really interesting data. This is just a thin slice of that data. This is not publicly available, which is why we're going to share it separately through the chat today. But this is labor market information on water and wastewater treatment plant and system operators just in Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim, so not the full region that's represented by WEEA. This does show that compared to the national market, there are fewer employees working in water and wastewater in this covered region than the national average. But the compensation for those jobs is much higher than the national average. No surprise, but it's really a significant differential. One thing that I thought was interesting is this is a national educational attainment graph, which shows that there's a pretty high proportion of people working in the water industry for whom a high school diploma or equivalent is sufficient, 40%. I would guess that in this covered region, actually, the percentage is lower for folks who qualify with a high school diploma or equivalent. So that's something to talk about in your individual regions, what you're seeing. But from a recent conversation that Tiffany and I had with HR managers and from past projects that I've done in other regions of California, I think that in California, the educational attainment required for the positions that we're talking about tends to be a high school diploma with some degree of community college training. Our primary, in this region, our primary community college partner who's preparing people for these career pathways is Santiago Canyon College. And I've heard many great things about the program that they're offering. There are a few other programs that have completers in this region and more in the WEEA region, but Santiago Canyon is our primary community college partner in this studied region. So I want to transition to, we have a diverse audience here of educators in industry, and Tiffany asked that I share just a little bit of foundational information about CTE education in the state of California. Please let me know if I inadvertently use an acronym that's not familiar to you. You can put that in the chat, and Liz, my colleague, can help to address that, or when I figure out how to access chat, I can try to answer that as well. So I'm just going to give a little bit of information about our career technical education standards, structures, and funding streams that we have in the state of California. We do actually have more funding for CTE education in K-12 and community college than we have had recently. CTE funding tends to ebb and flow, and we're in a period of a relative flow right now. So some primary funding sources that we have right now are the K-12 CTIG grants, CTE incentive grants, the Strong Workforce grants, which are both community college funding, and then there's Strong Workforce K-12 dollars that are flowing from the community college's chancellor's office to the K-12 system, which is really middle school and high school funding for career technical education. The national funding for CTE is called Perkins. And in particular, Perkins provides some rigorous kind of bureaucratic structures that we work within. In California, we submit a plan to the federal government for the use of Perkins funds, and then we're accountable for implementing our CTE programming according to that plan that we've submitted and has been approved by the federal government. There's also a new opportunity, relatively new, called the High Road Training Partnership, both for construction trades and for general career pathways. So those are the primary funding streams right now that are available to our collective to support education into water and energy career pathways. This is a poster of the 15 industry sectors for K-12 career technical education in California. Again, this is really middle school, but primarily high school that we're talking about in California. And in these 15 industry sectors, there is a lot of intersection with water and energy careers: manufacturing and product design, business and finance, ag and natural resources, ICT, engineering and architecture, building and construction trades, transportation, marketing, sales and services. You know, we really think about energy and water career pathways very broadly. Tiffany works in communications. She's a water professional. Regardless of students' skills and interests, we want to help them find their place in the water and energy sector. I'm going to talk specifically today, though, about energy, environment, and utilities. This is the sector where the standards are most squarely aligned with the work that we do collectively. Though, of course, again, at least 9 of these sectors squarely intersect with elements of the energy and water career pathways. So really quickly here, so each sector in California, each of the 15 sectors has 3 to 6 career pathways within it. In energy, environment, and utilities, we focus really on 2 of the career pathways: environmental resources and energy and power technology. And at SEI, I said we offer no cost curriculum. We have a course, multi-year course series that addresses either environmental resources or energy and power career pathways. So high schools can just adopt that curriculum. It's UC A through G approved. I'll talk about what that means in just a second. And then we provide all the support that we can think of to make it possible for teachers to implement these career pathways effectively. I'll come back to that in just a second. This is a somewhat old visual that's on the Community College's Chancellor's Office, actually, but this is showing the division of sectors at the community college level. You'll see that top left corner, advanced transportation and renewables are paired together. Renewables actually has moved over to energy construction and utilities. That energy construction and utilities sector includes renewables. And our regional leads, who we're so lucky to have, Rebecca, Bruce, and John, are just absolute experts in this field and are the regional directors for the energy construction and utilities sector in Inland Empire, LA, and Orange County. So have a lot of knowledge of the industry partners who work in the region, the community college education partners, and have a lot of connections into the high school system. So we're very lucky to have their leadership. So I want to talk just briefly about the standards at the high school level so we all understand the constraints that teachers are working within. So again, getting back to the energy, environment, and utilities sector and the environmental resources and energy and power technology pathways, I'll just give you a snapshot of what the standards look like, because teachers who are teaching career technical education, they are accountable for teaching each standard in a career pathway. So this is an example, environmental resources pathway A. They start out the standards giving you an idea of the occupations that are associated with these pathways. There's talk of revising these standards and even some motion on revising the standards, but they're more than 10 years old now. And I think, even when they were approved, people still saw opportunities for improvement. So we may see some changes, but right now teachers who are teaching an environmental resources pathway are accountable for teaching each of the standards that we see here. And this is just a snapshot, but it gives you a sense of how these standards intersect with the work that we do in the energy and water industries. Environmental resources is the most closely aligned career pathway for a high school student to the water industry. Either environmental resources or energy and power provide pathways into energy careers, but environmental resources is really the place to go for students who are interested in a water career. And you can see some of those standards here. Students are going to get a lot of energy in an environmental resources pathway and a lot of kind of land use and other issues. But these are the standards that are most closely aligned to the water industry. And then here's just a quick snapshot of energy and power technology. You'll see that it's a little bit more technically focused on energy and utilities. I said before, we offer a multi-course series for either of these career pathways. So schools can adopt the curriculum and receive it at no cost. And the foundational course is Innovations in Green Technology. That's a UCA through G approved D lab science class. And if you grew up in California, you might recognize UCA through G. That means that as a high school student, you need to take a certain number of years of coursework in different academic disciplines in order to qualify to apply for a UC. So you need to take a certain number of years of English, math, lab science, and then there are G is a general elective category. So Innovations in Green Technology does help you qualify for your UC science admission requirements. And then Energy, Environmental Design, and Sustainable Urban Planning are both G elective courses. And this really helps both students to qualify for UC admissions, and it helps schools to offer this course. And it's available, we're an approved partner for the state of California. So it's easier for the district to adopt. They don't have to go through their own district approval process with the state. It's already approved statewide. So this is just an example of the ways in which we're trying to just remove all barriers to schools and teachers offering career access to energy and water careers. Those are, super fun, hands-on, interactive classes. Students really enjoy taking them and teachers really enjoy teaching them. So if you are working with educators or you are an educator and you're interested, please let Liz and I know. We'd be very happy to share the curriculum with you. And we offer a no-cost 1-week teacher training every summer for the courses. So let's see here. This is just a little snapshot of, in addition to curriculum and teacher training, we offer statewide conferences and competitions. Typically, we offer 3 Green Careers conferences every year in person. And our first one in 2020 was scheduled to be 1 week after the stay-at-home order in San Diego. So those plans did not come to fruition, but we pivoted to Green Career webinar series. So you can check out our Green Career webinar series and please share them widely. They are really representational of a wide array of different industries and career pathways and professionals and leaders within energy and water. So those are typically about 20 minutes. If students are participating live, they can enjoy a Q&A with a professional, but the recordings are also great for integration into the classroom. So let's see here. I wanted to see if Greg is on the spot. This is really like totally coming out of the blue, Greg. Let's see. Oh, it looks like Greg didn't make it. I wanted to see if I could highlight a teacher who's doing some great work. I'm going to pass it here. Okay, quickly, I'll just talk about some other water projects to share work that has happened in other regions. So in a previous round of CTE funding, our organization SEI worked on a water career pathway grant that was in the Bay Area based out of West Valley College, and working with an equivalent regional organization called BayWork, which is a water industry organization based in the Bay Area, collaborative of many different water utility agencies. And we worked together in that partnership to develop BayWork still offers really wonderful videos on their site of to help illuminate different water career pathways for students. We helped to create curriculum that helped to develop the key skills that BayWork identified for people working in the water industry. And that curriculum was quite varied. Things like biomimicry to help cultivate engineering skills and solve water challenges at the same time. We offer a watersheds and public water systems curriculum. Again, this is available at no cost, so please feel free to request it if you're an educator, or if you know an educator, let them know that it's available to them. And that watersheds and public water systems curriculum helps students to develop ArcGIS and story mapping skills. So they map their watershed, their public water system, figure out, in some places there is geographic alignment between your watershed and your public water systems, and sometimes they're just totally divergent. So helping students become better acquainted with how we get potable water to come out of our taps and how we whisk away wastewater, and really making those invisible systems visible to students. That helps to illuminate all of the different jobs that are and career pathways that are part of water and wastewater, and helps to develop a very transferable career skill, ArcGIS mapping. I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague Liz to talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing with Metropolitan Water District and SoCal Edison on the Solar Cup project. Liz, I hope you have the capacity to unmute yourself. Yes.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Emily. Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here. I recognize a lot of you, but just to quickly introduce myself, I work with Emily Courtney at SEI, and I work across Southern California to really manage our programs, specifically in a lot of water and energy education work. So I'm going to share a few examples of some partnerships that we've developed here in Southern California and how this relates to the work of WEEA. If you look at this picture, there's 3 images that you probably are wondering what they are. The bottom left is actually something that Adrian Hightower is probably familiar with. We at SCI have been working with Adrian's team at the Metropolitan Water District to create engaging challenges for high school students with funding through Southern California Edison. So a really great example of a water and energy partnership. And if you haven't heard of Solar Cup, it's a very successful STEAM-focused high school education program in which teams of students from throughout Southern California have participated for many years in the building and racing of solar-powered boats, which sounds really impressive, and it really is. And somehow we actually were able to continue this work in the virtual world, which was really fun. So last spring, we partnered with the Metropolitan Water District to transition their Solar Cup event to a virtual challenge platform. And as the COVID-19 pandemic began and schools transitioned to distance learning, they really welcomed this as an opportunity to engage their students in the virtual world. The challenges that we worked on really covered a wide range of STEAM fields, but I'll mention a few. We really focused on solar-powered vehicles, robotics, CAD software, giving students those real career skills, building online gaming, social media messaging, visual arts, and career exploration. And this image in the bottom left is actually an image that's a screenshot from a Minecraft video. One of the students for the Solar Powered Marina Challenge actually developed an entire design in Minecraft of this solar powered boat marina and created a whole video that they sent to us, which was really impressive and very relevant to the real world of design. To quickly talk a little bit more about that competition, this actually reached over 600 students across Southern California, and we're continuing to do this year. In this partnership, SCI is really serving as a consultant and design partner. Metropolitan Water District holds the vision of this amazing program, but we really help to deliver the educational services focused on sustainability, climate change, solar energy, green careers, and social engagement to these participating students and teachers. So under this partnership, we're really helping to support the teachers and the high school students with our curriculum, instructional support, and contributing to the amazing educational mission of the Solar Cup, and just really excited to continue to be a part of that. That next image that you see in the middle of the screen is actually a solar car. And as all of you know or can imagine, teaching during the COVID-19 pandemic has been a huge challenge for teachers across the United States and across the world. In the Navajo Nation specifically, limited access to electricity, running water, and the internet made distance learning an even more difficult task. And at Whitehorse School in Montezuma Creek, Utah, 80% of the students do not have access to the internet at home. So you can only imagine how hard it was to go virtual with schools when the pandemic began. So to continue providing meaningful learning opportunities to their 300 students at Whitehorse School, who spanned 6 grades during the shelter in place, the school actually teamed up with us and our partners at the Power Up program that I'll talk a little bit more about. The Power Up program is led by the Heart of America Foundation and Swinnerton Renewable Energy. And in collaboration with them, we work to send education kits and supplies to over 7,000 people and students in the Navajo Nation. These kits included a mini solar powered car that you can see in that image. And SCI's contribution to that initial distribution was learning materials focused on solar energy to go along with the cars. These learning materials were a huge hit, so Whitehorse School requested to meet with us to discuss support that they might want going into this unprecedented school year. And I think what came out of this was just a really incredible cross-disciplinary, but also accessible STEM sustainability curriculum series that we've been continuing to work on with the Whitehorse teachers. And the point of me even really talking about this project is, even as a pandemic is happening in the world, it is really possible to provide quality solar and water and energy education, even in the face of these really significant distance learning challenges. So definitely excited to continue working on that project and really to continue building partnerships to be able to provide really tailored, appropriate, useful, beneficial curriculum to teachers across the United States. That last image, I believe Emily was referring to before. This is actually a screenshot from ArcGIS, which is a virtual mapping software. I'm sure a lot of you even use it in your careers. We incorporate this into our public water systems and watersheds curriculum to give students real career skills and actually look at their watershed and what effects and impacts their public water system has on that. And then if we go to the next slide, this is Mina Nada. And I know Emily mentioned a little bit about our Energized Colleges and Climate Corps programs at the beginning of the presentation. I'll talk a little bit about this one example. He is actually a former UC Irvine student. He studied Earth System Science, and was actually a part of our Energized Colleges internship program at UC Irvine. He actually found out about the program while in his 4th year, and he worked as an intern at the City of Irvine's Environmental Division, updating their energy plan. After completing his internship, Mina continued on the SCI leadership pathway and became a Climate Corps Fellow, which is the dream. We love being able to support people throughout many different levels of their career pathway. During his fellowship, Mina facilitated sustainability internships for disadvantaged high school students, taught environmental education lessons focused on climate, transportation, waste, and restoration, and facilitated action-oriented service learning projects. So really just amazing to see someone go through their career pathway and also give back to their community and educate students. After completing his fellowship, Mina also landed a job in the industry as a special projects assistant at Green Commuter and joined the Climate Corps Alumni Council to further support and inspire emerging sustainability professionals. And then on the next slide, I will talk about another Energized Colleges intern who I'm sure John Caffrey and Rebecca Elmore remember. So we've also partnered with College of the Desert and the Inland Empire on our Energized Colleges internships. And this is an image of Javier Enriquez. He was an intern at Right Away Air Conditioning and was an HVAC technician. And he had the goal of really learning how to install and troubleshoot air conditioning systems through this internship. And he was able to do that. The internship was only 8 weeks long, but he got enough hands-on work and experience to actually then get hired in the industry and is currently working in the industry. So very exciting to be able to work with College of the Desert and to continue to build up a lot of partnerships with local organizations looking to hire these emerging professionals, which I will let Emily talk a little bit more about how to bridge the gap to career.
Thanks so much for sharing, Liz. So we have talked mostly about the kind of educational portion, and as a collaborative, we want to work together to create really engaging, attractive educational experiences for students in middle school, high school, into college, and then think about how we help them facilitate that transition into career. So again, how can we work together on educational experiences and then create a really coherent career pathway from middle school into in-depth CTE, high school experiences, post-secondary CTE programs. And really, I feel like this graphic is a little bit misleading because it puts apprenticeships, fellowships, or internships after post-secondary experiences, when in reality, we want those work experiences to be starting even at the middle school level would be wonderful. And I want to talk a little bit about that work-based learning continuum starting in middle school. How can we work together to support graduates and job seekers to secure that first industry job and thrive in water and energy careers? It really starts with early work-based learning experiences. Even that experience that I talked to you about just like walking the halls of my mom's work, seeing her in uniform as a professional, interacting with other professionals just made me feel more comfortable in the world of work. And we really want to build that sense of comfort and empowerment and belonging for our students. And here's some ideas about how we can do that. This is showing just like a continuum of experiences at the youngest age, starting students out with professionals, guest speakers, green career webinars. I talked a little bit about that opportunity, building toward field experiences, post-COVID, field trips, job shadowing experiences, having industry professionals come in as project-based learning professional mentors to help be the audience for students to present their final work products to advise them along the pathway to get to those final work products. Just that engagement with professionals, either in their professional workplace or at school, is really powerful. All of that leading to helping students to be more prepared for apprenticeships, fellowships, and internships. I want to turn the mic over briefly to Olivia Sanchez, the Equal Employment Opportunity Manager for Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, to really highlight some of the amazing work that she's helping to lead at Met to create access to the first job opportunities for students and really help make sure that they feel that sense of comfort and belonging in the workplace and can build their work readiness skills into permanent employment. So Olivia, if you wouldn't mind taking it away.
Sure. Thank you so much, Emily. Appreciate the opportunity. So last week I was speaking with Emily and a couple of other folks, and we were talking about what are we doing to assist students to educate and address some of the hiring challenges that we were having, and what are the programs that we have in place. And so I put together a couple of slides to share with you as to some of the things we're doing. I know others of you are doing similar things, but just give you a perspective of what Metropolitan is doing. Can you advance the slide for me, please? I don't have control. Thank you. So this is just kind of just a diagram of showing the different pieces of what we're doing to create work experience programs and efforts around work experience. And I've kind of grouped them into 6 areas. 3 of them are internship based. So interns that come directly to Metropolitan. We have a co-op internship program, a higher LA youth program that we're heavily involved with. We have an apprenticeship program. We do a lot of outreach and partnerships around work experience programs. And then there is a website that was created to help us provide education to water careers. And so I'll just kind of break these down in the next couple of slides and tell you a little bit about them. So with regard to the internships and apprenticeship programs, what we term as an MWD internship program are those students through college or university, graduated or undergraduates, students that participate in paid work experience at Metropolitan. And they can be related to any field of study. And they are located at various locations that Metropolitan has within our field services to our headquartered building. So they can be in our operations side, they can be in human resources, they can be in our real property division, they can be in our external affairs area. So it's whatever they're currently seeking their education in. We post out there and say we're interested in interns in these particular areas. This is the criteria you have to meet, and if you're interested, please apply. And so we have those types of internships. They have been successful, and they have turned around into providing regular full-time job opportunities for some of these students. And when it doesn't, we get a lot of positive feedback. They've had some very meaningful experiences. Oftentimes, some of them don't even think about doing an internship in a water organization or a water agency. And so it's really their first exposure to the work that they are studying in that type of environment. The other internship program we have is a Cal Poly Pomona Cooperative Education Program. We call it the co-op program. And this is primarily in 2 areas, in engineering and in our water quality lab. These are summer and year-round interns. They're hired on to work in these specific areas. The summer internship is probably for engineering is our largest. We can bring up to about 15, 16 employees in over the summer. They really get a chance to work directly with the engineers in our organization, work on projects. They're moved around within the organization, and they're given opportunity to really see the organization from the inside. On the water quality lab side, we have chemistry, microbiologist, those science fields in those areas. They come in and they actually work year-round in the water quality lab alongside the professionals that are working there to help them look at water samples, to help them with water-related quality activities. And again, several of those have turned into, both on the engineering side and in the water quality lab, have turned into regular full-time employment opportunities for those students. So that's college and university students, but we also have a program called the Higher LA Youth Program. It's not our program. It's a program that is part of the city of LA. that reaches out to the entire county of LA. And it is high school. We take high school seniors, colleges, and first or second year university students. And we ask them through the LA Higher Youth Program to participate in summer internships. Again, it's paid internships with us. And for many of these students, especially the high school students that's come, it is their first opportunity into what a professional workplace looks like, what a professional organization is all about. These positions are primarily in our downtown LA office, our headquarter building. So they're mainly office types of positions that are there. We have had last year, for the first time, one actually working at a field site, but in the office. And it was amazing because a lot of these students come from underserved communities. We have students coming out of the some of the foster care programs. They are trying to get in, their first students going to college or university for the first time, first person in their family. And so it's a really great program that allows the high school students, especially, and some of these other students that otherwise may not have an opportunity for an internship, to participate in one. It's a really, really great program. I know Adrian and his area has often taken a couple of students. That program has been on hiatus last year and probably will be again this year, but we're hoping to get involved in that. It's been wonderful because we literally have these students go and tell their parents, do you know about Metropolitan? Let me tell you about Metropolitan. And it's great advertising for us and benefits for us to have these students promote. The other is the apprenticeship program. Metropolitan has an electrical and a mechanical maintenance apprenticeship program. It is a 4-year program, 4-year to become a journeyman. Metropolitan learned, this program started back in 2005. Metropolitan learned that it was hiring electricians and mechanics that didn't necessarily have the skill set when they came on board to hit the ground running, and they were hiring them at the journeyman level. And what they decided to do is understood that we were going to be having a lot of transition of the workforce with the silver tsunami that was coming, and created a program to train these electricians and mechanics inside. It's a great program. They start as pre-apprentice and then they move on, and at the end of 4 years have a job with Metropolitan. And it's really life-changing for many of these people because it's an entry-level position when they come on board. The other things that we have, and I don't want to play down on this because it's been very important, there's community partnerships that we have. One of them that we have is with an organization called Winter, Women in Non-Traditional Employment Roles. Again, this partnership is focused in the trades area. This is a pre-apprentice program for women to help them enter construction-related trades. Metropolitan does hire from this pool, and many of these women come and also apply for our apprenticeship program. It gives them a boost up in applying for the apprenticeship program because they come with skills already ready to go. It's a really meaningful program and a great partnership that we've had with them. Also, we're really focused on veteran training and employment programs, and just here's a list of a couple: Helmets to Hard Hats and US Vets. We have strong partnerships with them and looking at those programs that are available. And supporting them and collaborating with them on programs that help those individuals come into Metropolitan's workforce. We do a ton of outreach. In addition to what Adrian and his team does with education, we do a ton of outreach, attending and talking to high schools, college, universities, workforce development programs, Department of Rehabilitation, community partnerships, all about water jobs and what they are, who Metropolitan is, what we do, and spend a lot of time there. And the last thing that we do that we have is a Pathways to Water Careers. And if you haven't taken a look at this website, I would suggest that you do. The link is there below. And if we move on to the next slide, it's just a picture of what that looks like. And it's called Water Tomorrow, Pathways to Water Careers. Metropolitan gets a lot of questions about, well, how do I get into the water industry? What programs are out there? What do jobs at Metropolitan look like? And this website was created to help myself and any other employees or our board members who get questions about water careers, a place to send people to start looking. And if you go to the next slide, what the website does is it just breaks it out. What are the internship opportunities? What are the apprentice and training programs that are out there and exist? What are partnerships we have? It gives links to job boards, other water programs, and educational curriculum. So many of the places in Southern California that have educational curriculum for a water career are listed there. And that is expanding. There's also great videos about people who've gone through our internship program and now are employees and their experiences, and about videos about our apprenticeship program. So it's just a great way to get to use as a starting place for somebody who's interested in a water career, either at Metropolitan or somewhere else within our industry. So those are just a couple of the things that we're doing. And I appreciate, Emily, you giving me an opportunity to share those. And any of the information that anybody would like to learn more about, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to share with you.
Thank you so much, Olivia. I'm really impressed and appreciative with the work that you're doing. We are running a little bit over time, but I'm chatting with Tiffany. I would love to pass the mic one last time to Stephanie Hawes in the Inland Empire. She's a human resources analyst for the Inland Empire Utilities Agency and is doing fantastic work there with her team. So Stephanie, we are a little bit tight on time, but if you wouldn't mind just giving us a brief overview of the great work that you guys are doing. And then there'll be some more time for sharing out after we break into regional groups. Stephanie, can I pass the mic to you?
Thanks so much, Emily, and I'm happy to share information on our programs. The first slide, I'll try to move quickly through this. Most of you have, like many of you, we also have an internship program designed to provide students with meaningful work experience to supplement their academic curriculum, at the same time enhancing their future career development. Which is also helping all of us lengthen our pipeline and developing future talent with the relevant knowledge, skills, and abilities that we would like our workforce to have. So if you go to the next slide, I'll try to move along quickly. We offer a competitive compensation to many of you. Participants have to be in college, either through enrollment or they have to have graduated. And I'll move on to the next slide so we can cover the fun area that I wanted to talk about. So branching off of our trades program, our internship program, we offer 2 trades programs, one for paid interns and one for non-paid volunteers. The internship path is designed for trade, school, and college students. Participants must have graduation or current enrollment in undergraduate or graduate studies in an accredited college or university, major coursework in chemistry, biology, engineering, environmental sciences, wastewater or water treatment technology, or a closely related field. The volunteer path is designed for those seeking career change, professional development, and helping them meet the hour requirements for some of the professional certifications, specifically through the State Water Resources Control Board. These newly revised programs were created by our operations and maintenance team to provide individuals with the opportunity to explore water industry trade, career paths, and prepare incumbents for a career in the water or wastewater industry. Previously, our program was only designed for water and wastewater intern and volunteers, and we've recently revised the program to create a pathway for a wider variety of trades. So under the new revised program, participants will be able to meet the requirements of State Water Resources Control Board, the California Water Environment Association, and the International Society of Automation to qualify for professional certifications. The goal of the program is building career pathways to supply our industry with trade workers, which provides crucial operational reliability. So participants will have the opportunity to shadow and work with staff from our collections or operations, mechanical, electrical, and instrumentation departments based on an intern's work experience, educational background, certification, trade preference, and the available positions. They'll be assigned to a department that best fits them, as well as fitting the agency's needs to enrich their future career. Participants are considered having completed the program upon completion of their certification plan goals. And since its inception, 69 participants have entered into our program. IUA has hired 12 of those participants, and currently we still have 7 active employees who got their start through our trades program. And participants have also gone on to Eastern Municipal Water District, Irvine Ranch, and South Orange County Wastewater Authority. So it's been very successful. We're trying to get their foot in the door, get them some of that entry-level experience while helping them get their certifications. If anybody would like more information, we have a YouTube video that features it on IUA's YouTube channel. And you can also email me. I'd be happy to share our full program documents if you'd be interested in duplicating this out in your area.
Thank you so much, Stephanie and Olivia, for sharing those examples. We're just before we break into our regional groups, I want to just share this bit of information. This is also from a report that Bruce Noble shared with me on the labor market. It's a national report from the Brookings Institute on renewing the water workforce. But I think that these tips are equally relevant for energy career pathways. And I wanted to pull out these two graphics. This one is on employer-driven actions that are recommended, and then there are regional actions. And in many ways, a lot of these things are already being achieved in the region, but I thought that this was a good spark as we transition into our regional group for unlocking some creativity. So I want to give the group just a moment to review some of these suggestions of employer-driven actions to create pathways into water careers. And I hope you're a great speed reader. I'm going to flip to the next slide here. These are some suggested regional actions. I saw a little activity in the chat. These slides, I'm going to make sure Tiffany gets them. They can go out to the group, so don't feel like you need to take in all the information, but I do think it's relevant for our regional discussions that we're just about to have. The previous slide has the link to the source report for this graphic. You can see you guys are way ahead with WEEA. A lot of these things are underway. So thank you to Olivia and Stephanie for joining our presentation. Here's contact information for myself and for Liz. Please reach out to us. We are here to help and highly motivated to support the work of WEEA to build pathways in Southern California into high road water and energy careers. So thank you very much, Tiffany, for the invitation to present today, and Adrian as well, and looking forward to participating in the regional discussions ahead.
Thank you, Emily and Liz, for your great presentation. Great to bring in some of our partners like Metropolitan and IEUA to show us some examples of what's possible, because while WEEA as a whole is doing great, there's a lot of work to be done in the individual regions. So I think this really enables us to think a little bit further and consider what those next steps might be. So I'd like to open it up to Q&A. So if you have questions for our speaker, please raise your hand. We'd love to hear from you. A lot of information. And I did want to say that we had some questions, some personal stuff in the chat. Are these presentations going to be available? They will. We also record this meeting, so you'll get a copy of the recording. All the materials that have been shared in the chat will also go to you. And we also have had a request for attendance and attendee information. We do plan on sharing that. So if that's something you don't want to be a part of, you don't want your contact information shared, just shoot us an email or send it in the chat. That's fine. So if you have any questions for our speaker, please raise your hand.
I have one question, Tiffany. It's Bill.
Perfect. Thanks, Bill.
Yes. This is directed to basically to Emily. You know, when we were showcasing the work that Rialto Unified School District was doing with their CTE courses, they had quite a challenge finding CTE certificated teachers. How are you helping school districts with that kind of challenge? Because obviously a normal California teaching credential doesn't qualify you to teach a CTE course. How are you guys dealing with that?
Yeah, Bill, that's a great question. And, you know, honestly, the courses that Juanita and Rialto are offering are classified as science courses and are not eligible for CTE funding. And part of the reason for that is that it's very difficult to find qualified CTE instructors. Part of the reason is also that the standards don't, I talked about the rigor of the standards where you have to teach every single standard in a particular career pathway, including teaching students like the HEC-RAS software, which is relevant for water career pathways, but is not age appropriate and not easy to access for teachers or students. So there are some structural challenges to offering CTE education and accessing CTE funding. Doesn't mean we can't still offer career training to our students, which is exactly what Rialto is doing, is offering great water career training, just not exactly CTE coursework. And to your point around the challenge of finding CTE credentialed teachers, there are a lot of supports for getting a CTE credential. If we find somebody who has the 1,000 hours of industry experience, which a full-time equivalent position is 2,080 hours per year. So it's effectively 6 months of full-time work that we need for somebody to qualify for the industry requirement for a CTE credential. If we have someone who has the interest in teaching about water or energy career pathways and has that effectively 6 months of industry experience, then there are a lot of supports on a district or county office level to secure a CTE credential. So if anybody on the call today might be interested in teaching at the high school level, we would love to have you. And we're really in dire need. It's a major barrier to offering great CTE education across industry sectors. You know, if you're interested in IT or engineering and architecture, there's a teaching position for you if you have the industry experience, and there's a lot of support to get that CTE credential. But the finding somebody who both has the passion and skill to teach and has the industry experience is a real challenge.
Could I ask a question, please?
Sure, who's speaking?
This is Nicholas Dibbs. I'm sorry my picture isn't up, but I'm a credentialed science teacher, and I was the first recipient of MODOC's award for high school students through the Orange County Science and Engineering Fair years ago. I was water education and tour coordinator for the State Water Project for about 8 years, and I live here in Orange County, and I'm a credentialed teacher. What I see is the bottleneck, and I want to follow up what Bill Andrews mentioned, which is we have a bottleneck of finding CTE teachers who not only are qualified but available. Can we think outside the box and possibly have another avenue as well, in addition to trying to finding CTE teachers, but also trying to incorporate water and energy career awareness through our regular science teachers. That way we don't have the bottleneck of trying to find CTE teachers. We can have a two-track approach. So that's my question.
Well, I think that's a great idea, and really thinking about, you know, for all educators across all disciplines, thinking about really embracing their identity as career coaches and guides. So whether you're teaching English language arts or social studies or science, really thinking about how to illuminate career pathways for students. Of course, almost all jobs use the skills that we're learning in English language arts classes. And there are ways to bring career education into every English class. And similarly for science, really helping students to understand how science is used in the world. I often think about my own science education, and I feel like it was more like learning about history instead of learning about a living discipline that people were actively practicing in real life in real time. I feel like I had the concept as a science learner that I was studying discoveries that people had made, and our modern life was built on this series of scaffolded discoveries. And that was very interesting, but not nearly as relevant to my personal career pathway as I think it could have been. And so I think what you're talking about, Nick, is really important, thinking about how we not only teach science and the technical skills of science, but teach our students how they can use science in their career pathway. And there's a lot of application of science in both water and energy career pathways. So bringing professional voices, the voices of professional scientists from the energy and water industries into the classroom is one great opportunity to need that perspective.
Thank you, Emily. I just want to say Europa Unified 2 years ago or in 2018 floated a job for CTE water educator to teach CTE, and they couldn't find a qualified teacher. And I applied as a science teacher, but they wouldn't accept me because I didn't have the CTE credential, yet I worked for DWR for over 8 years. So we need to have some avenue to get this into the classroom if we don't have enough CTE teachers. Thank you.
So Emily, this is Kurt. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely, Kurt.
So I know you're aware of the UCCI, and that seems to be an attempt to merge CTE and science standards, at least the Area D requirement. Can you comment on your experience with that and the potential value going to the point of the last two speakers?
Yeah, Kurt is referring back to the UCA through G approval process, and there is support from the UC system through UCCI to develop new, sorry guys, I'm getting an echo. I hope you're not hearing it. Do you hear it as well? Sorry about that. I'm not sure.
I think you're good.
Is it better? Okay. So UCCI is available to help educators to develop coursework that is interdisciplinary and to align with the different UC categories. So Kurt was talking about the example of a D Lab Science. There is a lot of support to integrate career education into well-designed D Lab Science courses. And UCCI is one organization that helps to develop courses that are rigorous, aligned to UC standards, qualify for UCA through G approval, and integrate career into science learning. So for districts that are thinking about adding new science coursework, UCCI and participating in their Course Design Institute is a great opportunity. Kurt, did you want to say anything in addition to that? Did that cover it?
Well, only that I notice there's a tremendous amount of potential authority in the science frameworks, the health frameworks, and other policy documents for doing this sort of merging around environmental issues. I don't know if you want to comment about the synergy between these frameworks.
Yeah, I mean, there is really great work to, like, we all know that we work in an interdisciplinary fashion. There are no jobs where people are just working in a single academic discipline. And so there's a lot of work to be done that is being done to bridge some of the silos in educational disciplines and incorporate, for example, environmental learning into the next generation science standards, incorporate applied math, English language arts, and similarly in the other standards and frameworks in K-12 education. There is this work to really bring that sort of interdisciplinary infusion across disciplines into the rigorous structures of K-12 education. And I'm working together with Amy at 10 Strands on thinking about how to more formally integrate environmental learning and environmental careers into all of the industry sectors in CTE education. Environmental learning and practices, and the environmental principles and concepts are, essential job functions for people working across disciplines. So we want to make sure that that's really written into the structures and kind of formal systems of education across disciplines. And as I mentioned before, the CTE standards are in a somewhat slow moving process of revision right now. So it presents a window of opportunity to bring more environmental literacy into CTE education across industry sectors.
Great. Thanks, Kurt. It looks like we have a question from Dale Marsden. Dale, if you could unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, thanks for the reminder to unmute. I probably would have left it there and been talking for a while. And Courtney, thanks for your Emily, thank you for your presentation. And Adrian, thanks for calling me out. Kids can't wait for us to figure this out. It's my experience, serving a district of 50,000 kids and 51 pathways, working with folks like yourselves, workforce industry partners, trying to get kids into careers. I think what you said at the beginning, Emily, was key, and a couple of you even said it, just getting kids engaged in, Adrian mentioned micro internships, And then thinking about it for our professional staff, our teachers, and I want to underscore the need for our senior leaders, our principals, those that direct this work, to participate in externships at every level, elementary, middle, high school. We had many examples, and that was the most successful experience, even if they're micro externships for the teacher's experience, just a couple hours, a couple weeks, a couple days. All of those pay off tremendous dividend to bridging that divide, thinking about lending industry partners to the education partners to build that kind of capacity. We've had that happen. We actually had our workforce board pay for a full-time position from workforce into the K-12 system to help bridge that divide. You know, we know that there's a large divide. So I just think that we have to begin the shift of not working on one thing independently. It's a multi-track kind of approach, working with building capacity of our professional staff, but also marrying the space between the public sector and industry, and realizing, I think Emily said it so well, and maybe not these words, but we have to move away from teaching subject matter in isolation. We have to see ourselves, our education systems, as our community's largest employment agency. How do we get kids tapped into spaces that they love? How do we help them figure out what they love doing? So just a few comments, but just think it's worth just, again, I've learned a ton. Thank you so much for the invite, Kurt and others.
Wonderful. Dale, I hope you continue to join us for our future leadership roundtable meetings. It doesn't look like we have any additional hands raised. So we're going to go ahead and break now. Again, lots of love in the chat for your presentation. People have learned a lot and certainly appreciated you coming here today. And Emily's also said that she's continuing to join us for our leadership roundtable meeting. So you'll be able to interact with her today, and you certainly have her email address in the months ahead. So let me go ahead and share screen. And we're going to go ahead and take our 15-minute break now. So let's come back at 11. We're going to push our breakout rooms. We're going to squeeze them just a little bit tighter. It's always better to have great discussions, and that's what this presentation spurred in us. And this we're certainly open to that. So if we have to fudge our timeline a little bit, it's not a problem. So you can certainly put your screen on, no video share, and mute and get up and stretch. It's been already a long morning. Make sure that you get that body moving, because we're going to come back and do some more work in our regional breakout rooms. 11 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. So if you are back, please turn on your video so I know you've joined us. I see Dale. There's Walter, Zachary, perfect, Bruce, Katie, John, wonderful. It looks like we're all back. So I hope you enjoyed your 15-minute break, got some stretching in, and hydrated. Don't forget to hydrate. It's my job to let you know that. Okay, before we go into breakout rooms, we did want to do something called a good news segment and kind of highlight some of the great things that are coming out of these WEEA meetings. So we're going to start today building an education and industry partnership. We have Walter Zeisel, Manager of Education Outreach with Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and Raquel Stiles with Los Angeles Unified School District. So you guys have the floor. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, hi. So I wanted to share, we have a list I thought I would share. Let me just say as introduction, at the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, we've been involved with school partnerships for 40 years. I've been involved since 1987. And our goals have been to get information out to students and the teachers about the different issues related to water and energy over the years, with workshops and lesson materials and some of the same things a lot of the other water utilities, energy utilities have done over the time. We also wanted kids to know to become familiar with career opportunities so they could be productive in the workforce. But we didn't really know, I mean, I personally wasn't aware of CTE until WEEA started. I've been a longtime board member of the California Environmental Education Foundation. And so when Bill Andrews proposed this alliance, LADVP was very supportive of it, as is MWD. And so the last couple of years, we've been, coordinating these meetings and hosting them. And in the course of these meetings, we're able to reach out to the LA Unified District. The district's actually bigger than the LADP is the city of LA, basically, but the district's actually bigger. And I've been working mostly with the Division of Instruction, and we discovered that, we had a long-standing alliance or internship called Youth Service Academy since 1990, but we really didn't have an ongoing relationship. I didn't, at least, with career technical education. So we, a couple of the staff members, Seema Puri and Esther Solomon, who is the manager, started attending meetings. And then after about maybe about a year or so, Adrian Hightower and I had a meeting with Esther, and I believe Raquel was at the meeting at the time.
Yes.
And we talked about how we could work better together. And so I had expressed interest in seeing if we could, set up some kind of programs or partnerships. We have an existing adopted school program. We've got 24 adopted schools, 16 in LA Unified, or 17, I guess. And then the others are outside, including 6 in the Owens Valley. But we thought, okay, maybe we can incorporate them. So learning more about the partnerships and the pathways. First thing that Esther did, she actually was able to assign, to work with us. So we started working together, and so we came up with, we went back and forth, and the first thing I came up with was to identify what CTE pathways and sectors. Raquel and I worked on this. What are the CTE pathways and priorities that we thought we'd focus on, in addition to the utilities, environmental, and energy sector? And Raquel has been a great partner. So the first thing we came up with 4 different ones, right?
Yes.
And then I requested Raquel to come up with what specific schools were covered in the 4 sectors. I mean, the 4 pathways: the utility one, the engineering one, IT, and construction building, which is the trades. And then we also asked, we also make sure that South LA, which is, sort of traditionally one of the low income areas in the city, we make sure it's covered. And then we sort of listed the kinds of services, things we could provide, like speakers and tours and stuff like that. So then I'll turn it over to Raquel. And Raquel, what's that? Go ahead, Raquel.
We came up with 4 schools, which would be Fremont High School, that has the engineering and design pathway; Sotomayor, which has engineering, environment, and utilities; LA High School, which has engineering, environment, and utilities; and then Belmont High, which has the construction and building trades. Those are the 4 schools that we selected to work with. Go on.
Well, yeah. So then we said, okay, Raquel sent a list of sort of things what we could provide, and then reached out. I guess you reached out to, the teachers or the district coordinators internally.
Yes, the CTE teachers that were at those prospective schools. We reached out to them and just got an idea of what they'd be interested in partaking in this program. And most of the response was overwhelmingly yes. Most of them were excited to have this for their students.
So we seemed that the one that seemed the most interested seemed like the engineering group at Fremont High School. And we just had a meeting last week with the teacher, and she expressed interest in internships and speakers and mentorships and this kind of thing. And at the same time, we have I think I mentioned before that we have this new contract with NEPRIS, which is the Zoom service company that targets or works with teachers all around the country. And Fremont's one of the schools that in the school district that has this program. So we can double up or whatever. So what we're doing now is through NEPRIS also, but we're identifying some of the engineers that expressed interest. One of the topics we're looking at was renewable energy, and possibly talking about having 2 or 3 engineers from the different disciplines, talking first about what we do on renewable energy in terms of the plan going from about 1/3 of our power now to 100% by 2045, and sort of what does an electrical do on that in the planning and or the building, and what does a mechanical do, and this kind of thing. However, we also had a meeting go over a panel today, and Michelle Elias, who's the workforce specialist, she also mentioned that we might need to do an MOU, which we didn't know about. So we're going to see. We're trying to find that she's going to help do more research to see whether, what that means. But our plan is to, the teachers send us a schedule of when her classes are, like second, fourth, and sixth. So we're getting to the point now of trying to see about scheduling actual speakers, whether it be through NEPRIS or directly through the Zoom, to start the partnership. My goal is to identify one of our engineering groups at DWP that can adopt the school, which means this group would work specifically, their employees would work specifically with that school for the different aspects of it. We're hoping eventually they could do demonstrations or hands-on activities and stuff like that. So some of it may be virtual, but basically these were some of the steps that we follow to get to the point of getting the rubber meets the road. Because it's one thing, a meeting as a group regionally like we're doing, and then more locally, LA area or whatever. But when the real activity comes when you partner with specific educators. That's what we're trying to do with this. Not to mention, I would like eventually to see us develop sort of an organized program, which would involve the secondary schools and the community colleges and this kind of thing. But at least we can see what we can do to help some of the students now in more of a focused way.
And the great thing about this is that the teacher expressed that the students are really, really, really excited, because she said she's teaching actually a section on engineering. And she said to have actual engineers who are like mechanical engineers and electrical engineers and industrial engineers come in and speak with the students who actually work in that profession. She said it takes it to a whole new level, because as a teacher, she's like mommy. But she said that when you have these professionals come and engage with the student, that makes what they're learning really real. And she is so excited that we are going to be providing this panel of speakers and just exposing them to so many facets of the careers in engineering. So we are really just anticipating getting this thing started.
Yeah, and she mentioned 2 points that sort of emphasize what Raquel mentioned. First, that the kids want to, they're very motivated, a lot of them. She also said about half of them were girls, which is terrific. But she said what was really important was that the students want to know, what is it that the engineers do on the job? What is it? What do they do? And then the second important point is, how do you prepare for these jobs? How do you prepare for these careers? And so, these are something that we have. I've got, just for the NEPRIS alone, I've got 40 people signed up. 30 have been trained through the NEPRIS alone that we can. Plus, we have a speakers bureau at the department, and so we do have these opportunities to to start this real partnership and to get the word out. To really And we're hoping, they were saying the district would prefer us doing 5 or whatever. And because we had discussed this a couple of years ago internally at DWP about how do we get this out. And, we were thinking we would get several schools around the area that we would partner with, but these take time. And so I said, well, maybe we can do 2 this year. And then, every year add a cut 2, 3 or whatever. The idea that we would, there's in Southern California, as Adrian Hightower had mentioned, at least in our discussion in the past, there may be 1,000 high schools. Our service area alone in LA City probably has, over 100 high schools. But you can't partner with all 100. It's impossible. But if you can find those that, have programs that are geared to your area, that's one way to focus it. And that's what we're looking possibly doing. Of course, we hire from all over Southern California. Our priority is with the city of LA, but our employees come from, the whole Southern California area. So we'd be open to eventually go beyond the city, but that's our first priority to start. So anyway, that's sort of where we are. I know there's questions, but we just wanted to share, a success that basically came out of WEEA that is starting up.
This is a really great example of building an education industry partnership. You guys are doing great work. I know you're at the beginning of it, but please let us know how we can help. We've talked a little bit about the potential of the MOU that might be coming up, and MODOC has some examples of MOUs. We use them for a variety of things. So when you get to that point, let me know.
Yeah, we're gonna. They're supposed to. Michelle, I don't know if she's on. She had signed up for the meeting. She was going to do the research to find out, under the circumstance of what we're doing, is it required? If it is required, then what is it? What's in it, and who signs, and that kind of. We have to do it from our end too. So this, this could start within a few weeks. It might delay, and we'll see. But we're right at the point now of having, as I call it, rubber meeting the road.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you both for sharing
You're
the good news
welcome.
segment for LA. We look forward to hearing how this progresses and what your next steps will be. So thank you for sharing.
I want to thank Raquel, who's done an outstanding job, from
Thank
the
you.
school district, who's been following up, who's been outstanding following up. I mean, that's what it really takes. And you have to get follow-up from both times. And she's been an outstanding partner in just following up, just doing a great job. And she is, we mentioned, it was interesting because it was Emily mentioned about, CTEIG, incentive grants. And that's what Raquel is. She's the coordinator for the CTE incentive grants, which fits right in.
One of them. We have several outstanding people here. I'm one of them.
Well, you're my person, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're happy that you found each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you. So
Thank you.
we're going to move on next to Riverside Unified School District. They're going to share with you today what success looks like from a grant perspective. I know I have Nick here. I'm not sure, Nick, if you're going to present solely, but I did put Ron and Donna on the agenda. However you want to do it, you can certainly share your screen now and share your presentation. We look forward to hearing it.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Ron Weston. I'm the CT coordinator for Riverside Unified School District. And we were connected to WEEA about 18 months ago. Adrian Hightower is one of our partners on a summer program that we do for STEM students called Public Utilities Learning Labs. And so he invited us to join WEEA. Nick was hired about the same time, and we started talking about how we could bring back agriculture, because Riverside was founded on agriculture. And so we wanted to return to agriculture and update with some energy. And so I'm going to turn it over to him because he's got some funding sources that we've been able to capture that is going to be able to bring that to reality. Nick?
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. I had a conversation with Tiffany, I don't know, about a month ago or so when we were talking about this meeting, and I just shared with her that we had just received one of our grants, so she asked if we could present. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of a background as to what Ron was alluding to. And so anyway, one of the grants that we received was from the K-12 Strong Workforce. And for those of you who don't know what the K-12 Strong Workforce program is, here's a little overview, but basically what it means is that we're aligning our goals with what the region is looking for. We look at labor market data. We let the regional consortium help dictate, what programs we should be doing, as opposed to someone at a school site or someone at a district just choosing programs that they want to do. Following the guidance of the consortium allows us to align with what labor market data tells us we should be looking into. And so that's just kind of the background of how that grant works. We applied for our second round of funding last year, and what we wrote was we wanted to expand our program so that all 15 industry sectors could be represented at our district, because at the time we only had 13 of the 15. And so the two that weren't being represented were agriculture and natural resources, and then energy, environment, and utilities. And we thought, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if we could bring both of those sectors in as one cohesive hybrid pathway. And so part of our big bulk of our plan for round 2 was beginning the planning for a hybrid pathway. We have some teachers at one of our high schools who were already in the agriculture area. And when we pitched the idea to them, they're science credentialed. So a part of this would require them to go get a CTE credential. And this was part of the conversation that I heard earlier. How do we get more science teachers, those CTE credentials? Well, fortunately, some of our teachers were doing volunteer work. They were doing intern work. We offer externships, also heard that come up earlier. And all those things allowed them to get the hours they needed to be able to apply for a CTE credential that they're still working on. And then when we got to round 3, that's the current round where we just applied for and got awarded. We wanted to focus on enhancing our cross-sector and cross-curricular work. How do we bring core teachers into the CTE realm? How do we bring our CTE teachers over to the core realm to enrich this experience for the students, right? Giving them context, all the things that everyone's been talking about this morning. And so some of the areas that our consortium recommended that we focus on is business and entrepreneurship, and then health and safety. And so what we're doing is applying those across all of our pathways and sectors. And so, as it relates to the relationship that we have with WEEA, the round 2 gave us that opportunity to kind of reach out and see what it's about. It's also allowed us to partner with Western Municipal Water District and Candy Judd over there. Candy's on the call today, as well as Melita at San Bernardino Valley College, because the other piece that I think a lot of, at least up until this point, a lot of schools and districts were missing was the idea that it needs to be a collaboration between the K-12, the college, and industry, right? So many times it's 2 of those 3. And so we're really trying to balance that out and make sure that we have those partnerships all the way across the board. So the second grant that we wanted to share today is something called the Specialized Secondary Program Planning Grant. And we also just got news on this one. So basically, this is a program that allows for startup funds for the establishment of a new program. Well, it just so happens that we were working on our K-12. The SSP came about, and for those of you who understand the grants, you probably already know this, but those of you who are new to it or in industry and don't see the grants that we see, there's a big emphasis on grading your money. So figuring out, I got this grant, let's figure out how we can use them together, right? So it's cohesive and that they're not existing separately. And so the brainchild of these two is a pathway that we call Modern Environmental Sustainability Solutions. It's a mouthful, and it took us a while to come up with, but we feel like it does the best job of explaining what it is that we're trying to do. So our teachers were very much about the sustainability piece, but we want to make sure that it's about the innovation, right? And it's about the environment. It's not just the ag, and it's not just the energy side. So a true hybrid. So the part that we wanted to share, we were fortunate enough to receive about 1.5 million for our round 3, which allows that cross-sector work to happen, integrating like our science with our CTE, and gives us the ability to pay teachers on time cards to do more curriculum development, some equipment, but mainly that time and that ability for those core teachers and CTE teachers to collaborate, for those CTE teachers to collaborate with the college instructors, for them to collaborate with industry. And so this is over a 30-month period. So we're excited for it. This is the one that we really want to share. But then since then, we also received notice that we received the SSP planning. This is just for the planning portion. I believe there are additional funds that we can apply for afterwards. But this first round is $35,000, again, to do similar work, which is writing the curriculum to figure out how do we take our agriculture class and bring in energy, environment, utilities, and teach them together. And that's what we have there. So here are our emails if you needed to contact me or Ron or Donna. I don't know if Ron has anything else to add, or if you guys have any questions.
No, that's good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Nick. Any questions we can answer, Tiffany?
It looks like there aren't questions right now, but we do have a thank you for sharing your grant journey. Wonderful presentation. You know,
I'm sorry, I have a question. If I could please, this is Nicholas Dibbs. Ron, can I ask you, what is the funding? Are there several sources for the grants, or where did they come from, the grants?
So all of our money that we talked about today are state funded grants. The K-12 Strong Workforce Grant is a grant that flows through our California community colleges. And then to make a stronger connection to the K-12 world, they put out the K-12 Strong Workforce Grant. So it's really a connection from 9-12 to college to make sure that there's a smooth transition, and then to build pathways that are connected so our students could possibly get certifications while they're in high school, or at least be on the road to a certification after high school. And then the SWP is just a strict California state K-12 grant. You know, Raquel and Walt talked about the CTE incentive grant. That's a state funded grant. And we also get Perkins funding, but that's a completely separate federal grant. It's a little bit more complicated.
Thank you very much. I meant to say
Sure.
Nick but Ron, I looked at the list and got the names confused, but thank you both.
We're on the same team. Thanks.
So how do you find out about these grants? Is there a list of grant opportunities that maybe you could share with other school districts or other water districts that can help
Sure.
get this going? And I guess this WEEA would be an avenue to do that, so we can get districts moving forward with water districts and partnership grants with the water districts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of the CTE incentive grant funding comes right through California Department of Education. Most of the funding sources are right on their website under the Career Technical Education page. Your local districts probably already know about the incentive grant. The K-12 Strong Workforce grants are divided into regions. So we're in the Inland Empire. So we're part of Riverside and San Bernardino County. So there's, I believe, 18 or 19 different K-12s that are involved in that, along with 6 or 7 community colleges. And so most of that funding is available on the Career Technical Education page on CDE, the California Department of Education site.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great. It looks like we have a couple of other questions in the chat. Are you including internships or apprenticeships? Is one of them?
Yes, and of course, the beauty of being able to get this funding and write planning, you know, the curriculum is to also build those internships or apprenticeships as we move forward, and that's Donna Schulte's job. She's our job development specialist, so she works with business and industry partners to create those opportunities for students. She wasn't able to be on the call for the entire time. She's had to jump off to go to a doctor's appointment. But
I will chime in. I'll chime in real quick. I'll just say, you know, Candy Judd with Western Municipal Water District, who's on the call, you know, she's been incredibly gracious and given us the opportunity to sit and talk with her about opportunities that Western Municipal has in specific, like the water engineering side, but also a lot of the other facets of their business, which has been fantastic because we're able to even, again, some of that cross-sector work. So maybe you're in marketing, but for a water district. So we're able to again braid some of those concepts together, and it's been a really good experience. Now COVID has of course slowed that down, but you know we've been able to build some really good relationships this way, and WEEA has done a great job of helping us come together. And same with meeting Melita. I met Melita at WEEA, and now we have a partnership with San Bernardino Valley College that we'll be working on as we move forward. I see that there was a question about the how the hybrid pathways coded in CalPads. That's a question for Ron.
It's a great question, and we are not teaching it right now, so we don't have to report it until next year. And at that point, we're going to have to figure it out. I think it's going to depend, because 2 of our teachers are credentialed in energy and the other one's credentialed in agriculture. So we're probably going to have to create 2 course codes, one for the ag teacher and one for the energy teachers, and then they'll report out that way. But we haven't decided that specifically yet. That's another downside of the job, having to figure out how to report that kind of stuff. But the state's really pushing us to do that cross-sector work, which I think is really valuable. So students are getting a broader range of opportunities within an industry sector. And so they're going to have to be able to help us navigate some of those reporting requirements.
Thank you very much for sharing your good news with us. This is what we like to hear, that WEEA is effective at creating partnerships. 1.5 is not slow. So while it's slowing down in COVID, you guys have done a terrific job. Thanks for giving us some inspiration as we continue to work together. I appreciate you sharing out.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Sure. Okay. We have run a little bit late, so what we're going to do, just to kind of adjust our agenda a little bit, we're not going to do the share outs, but we are going to do the regional groups, because I think that those regional groups are very important to continue the conversations. It's going to make sure that you get familiar with who your regional lead is. So we're going to do something a little bit different, and that is allowing you to select your regional groups. You'll have an option in just a second. Our prompts here are build or strengthen. Is your agency or school district in the development or implementation phase of creating a CTE workforce pathway? Please also determine whether or not the CTE pathway is what you're looking at, or are you looking at building additional resources? Identifying your first or next 5 steps towards those pathways. Who will take the lead on each of these steps, and how can we best support you? I'll get with the regional leads in the next few weeks to kind of unpack what you are going to discuss a little bit here in your regional groups. You'll have a selection, and for those of you in organizations such as Metropolitan, who serve a much larger service area than the 3 that you'll see, which are Los Angeles, Orange County, and Inland Empire, you'll have the opportunity to jump between those groups and listen to some of those conversations. We're also going to have Kurt Holland, who will be leading our San Diego district, which we hope to build out, jump from group to group. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open up our breakout rooms, and please select the option to join the room that you best identify with. Room 1 is Orange County, 2 is Los Angeles, 3 is Inland Empire. Wonderful. Everyone's on their way back. I hope your conversations were healthy and creative. You were able to talk about great next steps and how WEEA can best support you. As I mentioned, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do our share outs today, which is okay. Really, the biggest part was that you could break out into your regional groups and talk about these prompts, and so that I can get a better understanding also of what our next steps with WEEA needs to be, and if there's anything that can align with the entire region, or what we need to focus on specifically. So again, if there's something that you're dying to talk about, or some way that we can help you, or you have a question, please send me an email or connect somehow. You can certainly email Katie, and she'll get all that information to me, but I'm very curious to hear how your day went today, and if you enjoyed the meeting. And for our regional leads and sponsors, would like to hold a meeting in the next couple of, I'm going to say the next couple of weeks, to give us a little bit of a break, but we can talk about what our next steps are with WEEA and what you discovered today. Great. So this is where we conclude. We're going to conclude just a couple minutes early, 3 minutes, maybe 2. Again, thank you to our speakers. I want to give another shout out to our sponsors, our 2021 WEEA sponsors, Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Molten Miguel Water District, Water Replenishment District of Southern California, California Environmental Education Foundation, and another giant thank you to our newest sponsor, Western Municipal Water District. Our next Water Energy Education Alliance Leadership Roundtable meeting, number 8, will be held on June 22nd, so save the date. Once we get everything coordinated and situated from this meeting, we're going to send out everything you can possibly imagine to keep you in touch with what you learned here today. I know it was a lot of information, but a lot of great resources that we think can help you on your journey. So thank you for joining us. Please connect, and we look forward to seeing you on June 22nd.